Hello, and welcome back to this edition of Burgers and Fries. As always, my name is Anthony. We also have another Anthony who goes by Tony. And
Hello.
we have three panelists on with us today. Greg, we all know who Greg is. Mikey, welcome back. And we have another one today who would like to be called Rain. Say hello, Rain.
Hello, welcome. Excited to be on.
Excited to have you too.
Awesome. So we're excited.
Here.
And we felt like it was time for something to strike back. And what's going to strike back today? Shitty
The Empire.
Jobs. That's another movie. But we have shitty jobs striking back. We have problems in the workplace. We're here to vent about it. And we have all kinds of experiences that we can bring to the table. All right? And I am going to start with you, Mikey. What about your workplace or your experiences are just really shitty right now?
I guess right now, since I'm stuck at Target.
Don't you call it tar shit? There you go. Tar shit.
Tajay.
Yeah. I didn't go here by choice. I just went here because I wanted to escape my last toxic job, which was the hotel.
So what was bad about the hotel?
It wasn't bad at first. When I first started, they offered me a design job. Except once I went into the actual interview, I noticed that they moved my application, and once I went to the first day, they automatically made me housekeeping.
What the fuck?
What?
So you actually were applying. You were interviewing for a design position? Am I hearing this correctly?
But I guess they didn't have it at the moment, so they just said, "Oh, we'll keep you in for like 5 months, and then we'll see if that position's available."
Oh, good God. That's terrible.
Wow.
I know.
That is empty promises. Oh, my God.
I did that from November 2019 until March 2020 when the pandemic hit.
So what was
Then
it like
by-
during the pandemic?
It was easy. It was restoring, a restoration of my life.
Okay.
After that, I went back in April of 2021, but not as housekeeping, but as a pool attendant.
Did you wear a Speedo?
No. This is
Come
where
on. Come on,
This is
where you are, it gets 120 degrees out there in
I know.
spring.
I wear pants, and I was the pool attendant, I was the food runner, I was the banquets, I was the cleaner, and the zoologist, because they didn't want to hire people there.
Zoologist at a hotel? What does a zoologist
Dude.
at a hotel do?
It was basically taking care of these huge turtles, giving them food. If people came, talk about like the turtles and what they eat and all that stuff, and then clean up after them.
You live in the desert. You have tortoises.
Yeah, tortoises. I think one of the worst experiences I had there was there's a group of Armenians that always rents out the hotel once a year, like in around Memorial Day in May. And I remember they assigned me in the pool, the slide, and I was stuck there for the whole day. And then all these random kids, probably like around middle school, ended up attacking me and saying racial slurs to me.
The fuck?
I know, and I couldn't like report them or say anything because they paid for their rooms, they paid for half the hotel.
You said Armenians are doing this in May? Like, is it for one of their
They
holidays?
always come in around May.
Probably like Republic Day or Armenian Independence. That's probably what they're celebrating.
Yeah, it just wasn't fun having social anxiety, panic disorder, and depression all at the same time, and then having to deal with them.
Good thing you got out of there. So
Yeah.
why are we calling it tar shit?
Originally, I was only gonna be a cashier there until they just said, "Oh, you're also gonna do carts," and I was like, "All right, just carts attendant. That's not so bad." Or the cart pusher. Yeah. Only that I know, I was also gonna be the janitor again. I was like,
Oh my God, they're just making you do shit that nobody else wants to do.
now at Target, I'm not only the cart pusher, I'm also customer service, drive up, and the cashier. Sometimes I do all of them at the same time.
Damn. It's crazy.
Yeah, and when a person went up, it's like, "Are you guys hiring?" The manager said, like, "We're not hiring. We're full of staff." I was like, "Yeah, right."
Sounds like they just don't want to hire any more people because they just rather have you guys do all the dirty work.
Yeah, that's one thing. Once I quit the hotel job, because we were doing like multiple departments. Once I left, another person started to leave, then another girl started to leave, and then another guy left. And after he left, they fired the pool manager lady. A guy that I still know from the hotel, he came up to me, he's like, "Man, you started a revolution. Our manager got fired." It's like, good. I was gonna say what's even sadder about like the hotel and I guess Target, there's people that have degrees and are just depressed, like out of life, that they wasted all that time in college and to become like biologist or I don't know what else. A psychologist. There's a psychologist in my hotel. He was really good.
A degree psychologist works at
at the hotel.
So elaborate a little bit more on that. I mean, you admit that you spent a lot of time, a good amount of money getting a degree for a specific dream that you had. And you know what? I believe, Tony, don't you have a degree in something?
Yes, broadcasting, communications.
Okay. Do you mind saying what kind of degree that you have, Mikey?
It was a digital production or digital design and production, which is basically a graphic designer.
Now, I myself do not have a college degree. I'm college educated, but I never finished college for life circumstances. My sister, on the other hand, she does have a bachelor in the arts in creative writing. She got that in 2006, and she is now a housewife. She got as far as managing a Barnes & Noble. Is it just a thing of liberal arts degrees that most of which people will obtain, rack up all this debt, and then, now they're stuck with hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt and no job. Instead, they'll have to go to work at Starbucks and go complain on TikTok or whatever about working 4 hours in a day.
Yeah. Lucky for me, I didn't pay for anything when I went to college.
But again, we have at least two people in this panel that have college degrees. And one of them works at Target, one of them works at another retail store, right, Tony?
Right.
So, is college a scam, or is the debt thing a scam? Is it the student loan thing? Like, what about this is just like really making it tough for people our age and our generation to make it further compared to people 10 to 15 years ago who probably got the same degrees?
Well, I think it's because, like, one, college is a waste of time because even if you do have, like, get a degree, you're not guaranteed that job because the simple fact that they don't hire you based on your skills. It's based on how much experience you have or how qualified you are. You're either underqualified or overqualified. There's no middle ground. So you could be the smartest person in the world and you still won't get that dream job you want right out of college because it's just not possible because there's so many people applying for the same jobs and everything that you have to resort to a job you don't like just to make ends meet and get by in life.
And I work with many people who have degrees in physics. They have chemistry degrees. They have, astronomy degrees. All right. Yet we all work part-time at the same place. This is their college-age astronomy job, and I'm working in the same field. I'm earning the same amount of money as they are, yet I don't have a degree. I've just shown that I know as much as they do, and I'm probably qualified enough to do things that some of them are not qualified enough to do, even though I don't have that piece of paper. Rain, why are you griping about your job today?
Oh, man. I'm 22 years old. I've probably had 4 different jobs, and 3 of them have very notable stories. If I want to talk about kind of my current job, I work at a hand sanitizer place, and it sucks too because the management that we have are people who have like been out on the factory floor and like should know like how things are supposed to be run, but they run it like it's never, like they've never even been out on the factory floor. And some examples of that are like we need a minimum of 5 people to run a line, and how we run the line is like we have somebody putting the bags on, somebody capping the bags after they've been filled with the soap, somebody putting them into boxes, and then a guy stacking them on a skid or pallet, and then somebody's making the boxes. Well, sometimes they like to take one person off, and we only have 4 people there. And I forgot to mention, too, there's a team lead that runs the line just to make sure, like, it's all running well, everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing. When they remove people from the line to run a whole other line that's not priority, it fucking sucks. Like, we have to do twice. We gotta, like, kind of get into more high gear more than normally if we had, like, the adequate enough people. But that's mostly me just kind of bitching about the job, just on, like, a regular. some of the people that work there are very interesting to say the least, I'll say. One of the absolutely most fucking vile things I heard happened a few weeks ago. We were working on this one line, and we were working with this guy. He's in his late 50s, heavyset guy. He's got like a Beatles haircut, and he's got like a Mario mustache. Like, he's a very distinct looking motherfucker. And
oh god, I can just envision. I can't just envision that.
Yeah, the line had stopped for a little bit due to some kind of maintenance thing. And so one of the maintenance guys comes up, and he's talking to this guy. The guy starts talking about how when he was 24 years old, he was fucking a 15-year-old. And like,
good god.
Like, he was saying it kind of like in a hushed tone, but he was still loud enough to where everybody could hear him. And I'm like, what the fuck? And then what he fucking says next, fucking like broke my friend and I. He was like, I found out she was 15, and when I found out she was 15, I still kept fucking her. I'm like, what the fuck?
Ooh.
I'm like, how in the fuck? And I had to go to the restroom just to kind of walk away from that, just to process what I heard. I was like, how in the hell? That's my current job. I do have a couple of funny, interesting stories from some of my past jobs. When I was 17, I worked 2 summers at this Christian camp. That one's definitely the most public job I've had to work. This was my first year. They were doing something called handicap, which was like for people with like physical and mental handicaps. They would go to camp for this week, and they would have like a lot of programming for them. On the last day, we were getting everybody out of the bunks, and this kid who I feel bad for them because they were wheelchair bound, and they had to be put into bed and like put out of bed. But he grabs my friend, and he's like, "Hey man, I think I just shit the bed." Of course, he doesn't say shit. And so the camp, my friend pulls him up, and the whole fucking bed is covered in liquid shit.
Oh.
Like, covered. And that poor bastard, he had to clean it up.
Oh, that's worse than when I gave a lesson to a kid on the ice. I used to be, when I was a skating instructor, little 5-year-old kid, and just stands there and he freezes. He doesn't say anything to me. And then the next thing I just see is just this yellow fluid just trickling down his leg, and it just created a little puddle on the ice.
Oh no.
And there was another time, we used to go out and have drinks the night before, because sometimes we'd have early morning practices. And so we would go out and have drinks with all the other coaches. And then one of our coaches, who usually got drunk, was hungover the next day, and got closer. Just got closer. And the kid said, "You smell like Daddy."
Oh no. Oh shit. I have one of my own from the job, and
I have one too, which I'll save for when it's my turn.
Yeah. On the campground, they have different obstacle courses too, or like fun little things like the kids can do. And one of them is like this zip line. How the workers were set up, they'd have somebody on the ground with the ladder, which is where we'd take the kids off of the line, and they'd have a worker up on the platform base, and we'd have walkie-talkies. My friend who was up there, he was like, on zip, and I was like, zip on, because the path was clear. There was nothing in the way. He was free to zip down. And so he lets go of the kid, and literally a second after that, he radios over to me. He's like, "Hey, be careful. This kid is pissing himself as he's going down the line." And so he is just straight. As he's going down the line, he's pissing. So it was fucking nasty. I was just, once I got the kid off the line, I was like, whew, that was something. That job, it wasn't really shitty, other than the instances
having to deal with piss and shit.
Yeah, I'll talk about one more job I had. This one, it was a part-time job at a butcher store. It was ran by this family. Mostly everybody there was pretty closely knit, and the owners were like in their early 70s. So their son, he was like in his early 50s, and he's like the embodiment of Quagmire off of Family Guy. Anything that Quagmire did on Family Guy that you thought couldn't be done in real life, this guy did. I'll never forget this. There was this one time, this girl was walking in the butcher shop, and she had a particularly big ass. And so this coworker, he's just like almost kind of like stalking her down the entire time she's in the store, and I could tell when he was doing it because he couldn't hide it. His eyes are like bulging out, and he's got this big smile, like his jaw is dropped on the floor. You could tell when he's doing it. So this girl gets done with her shopping, and she leaves the store, and he goes over to me, and he's like, "Hey, DJ." That's my real name, by the way. I was like, "Yeah?" I was like, "Did you see that girl with the big ass over there?" I was like, "Yeah." He looks around, and he's like, "I'd eat the corn right out of her shit canal." I had to leave to the rest area, because I couldn't contain my laughter. Another thing kind of involving this guy was he would go to the bathroom for several periods of time, and he'd be in there for a while. He'd be in there for like 20 minutes. I was hearing noises from the bathroom, and it turns out he got caught by his parents watching porn in the bathroom.
Ooh. Holy shit.
50-year-old guy watching porn in the bathroom, and he would get just
a 50-year-old guy, his parents catch him.
Yeah. But he was open about it too. Like, he'd go into description and shit. Like, he was into some nasty shit. That was an interesting time working at the butcher shop.
We appreciate what you told us. Okay, definitely some great funny stories there, Rain. All right, Greg, you recently got let go from Coke.
Yep.
Why?
They pointed out I wasn't really fast enough to build the pellets and all that.
Okay, so I take it you were in a warehouse, right?
Yeah.
They made us do that shit at UPS as well. I understand your plight, but what was the process that they wanted you to do?
Well, to put on whatever Coke products that were supposed to be going on the pallet.
Okay, to be moved to a truck or whatever?
Yep. Well, I was given this little headphone with a little microphone that's attached to it, and will tell me to go wherever items I need to pick up. The only thing that kind of throws me off is, well, when it comes to bigger items, I don't have a problem, but when it comes to smaller items, it does tend to throw me off because some of them I can use right away, but let's say if there was only one left, I don't know what to do with it. Yeah, well, as I do recall, I was supposed to reach down to 0 or something. Well, during last week, I was at 19%, but then all of a sudden it just went back up to 28. I couldn't explain about what happened or whatnot, but they did kind of tell me that we're going to have to let you go because you're not going to be able to catch up.
Similar thing happened to me at Amazon. When I took 3 days off of work and I was jet lagged on the fourth day, my production number was so bad on the jet lagged fourth day that they wrote me up, not taking into account that I had taken 3 days off from work. So they were like, how come you only scanned this many items in a week? Like, how the fuck could they not tell that I only worked 1 day that week?
Because Amazon doesn't give a shit about their employees. All they care about is their bottom line more than their employees. So it's gonna happen so much to a lot of people until it was a wake-up call not to work there.
Eventually, you think they're going to run out of people to go through before they're like, oh, we're having trouble hiring people.
No shit. Like, no shit, Anthony. And but the day it happens, I'm going to be happy when that happens.
Oh, we're going to laugh, and then we're going to just say, oh, that's what you get, Jeff Bezos.
I'm
I remember
surprised
some- I
they
remember-
didn't have it in their system.
I don't know. And I remember somebody asking me, hey, what'd you think about Jeff Bezos going to space? And I said, oh, good, a dick and a flying dick.
An asshole. Yeah, I know he's an asshole. He's like Mr. Krabs with SpongeBob, only cares about money.
No, but his rocket literally looked like a penis. So it was a literal dickhead and a flying dick.
Damn. He's bald too, so he could pass as uncircumcised.
Probably, yeah.
There you go. So they get you on, you're below the percentage, and they're like, oh, you're not going to get a chance to catch up. Like,
Yeah.
they couldn't have you do something else to help you catch up. Like, there's nothing else. Okay, this Gregory, he's having trouble with this thing. Maybe he'd be better at this. They couldn't make you do anything else.
Nope.
That's fucking stupid.
Well, I can remember the first time I was doing the dishwashing job was at a Perkins restaurant. And let's just say that the manager was being a bitch and the guy that I used to work with was being a dick to me. And well, I did kind of ask for some help, but they said, no, you gotta do this on your own. You gotta do this on your own.
So they didn't have like any like training for that? Because I assume you were just on the job. So they didn't train. They just threw you in just as is. Like,
Well,
And they
that's what
told me how
did.
things work.
That's what they did with Amazon. That's what they did with UPS. They literally just throw you into the shit.
usually at my work they'll have you train for at least a day or two just to kind of get you acquainted with the line. That's crazy. They're not training people properly.
Well, like training, we think, okay, it's tutorial. They're holding your hand through it. It's step by step, and it's very, very little. Like Fallout New Vegas has more of a tutorial than Amazon does. Now we can laugh at Tony's job and what a pathetic job he has. Tony, what's been going on in the workplace that's causing you to want to gripe again?
Well, it all started around the holiday season when like there was only me and two other people working, and the holiday season was very busy, and they should have had like given us one more person to work like how they did back when the old manager was around, but they didn't, and it caused us to be very stressed out. And the way she was scheduling everybody, she just did not know what the hell she was doing. And I have nothing against my boss, but my boss, she comes in late. She's supposed to come first thing in the morning, but she doesn't. She comes in, sits in the office and does nothing, and then she'll go into pharmacy, help out in pharmacy for a few hours, and then she'll like ask, hey, how many credit cards did you get today? Do you get any credit cards? How's facing going? How's the credit card? You asking all the customers for credit cards? Just these My Walgreens credit cards are some of the dumbest things ever. Like, from what I heard from a coworker / shift lead, that nobody likes her because of how she handles the store. Apparently, at the last store she worked at, she ran that store to the ground, and it didn't recover. She's slowly doing that to our store. IC3 is when you have more than 3 customers in line up at the register. When you see more than 3 customers, you call IC3 for someone to open up the second register. And usually a manager or a coworker will respond, or a shift leader will respond to it. My boss never responds to IC3s. My old boss did, but the current one does not. A coworker of mine got written up for something he didn't even do because he was supposed to clean the bathroom and he didn't, and he wasn't there one day that he claimed he was, and he got written up illegally. And he threatened to call HR, which he hasn't done yet. But still, I mean, he got written up 3 times, and he's still there. But he doesn't care if he gets fired because 10 years he's been working there in the photo department, so he's fine. But just that my old boss retired because he was having some health problems and a couple other things. But he regrets leaving because the way the store is these days, it's sad. There was a shift lead who was a complete asshole. He expected people to know everything on the fly without training anybody, and if he'd messed up, he'd get pissed off at you and said, "Jesus Christ, what the fuck," and stuff. And he's gone because he quit. He was one of the people who didn't want to work, and the only reason he worked worked in the first place was because his unemployment money ran out, and then he hates the new job he works at now, and just yeah. Another thing is that pushing people to get a flu shot or a pneumonia shot or a COVID shot or so, because
like our president pushed the fucking country to get everybody to get a shot.
Well, here's the thing. You convince someone, they say yes, you get a $5 PM on your check.
So does that mean Joe Biden got $5 off on his bill for convincing everybody to get a COVID shot?
I don't know. And there's another thing too. If you don't ask every customer about the credit card, you could get written up. And here's something that happened one day.
We know.
No, here's something else. The district manager came in the store, and he was disappointed. I didn't say hi to him. I didn't know who he was. And he saw, and like a couple of things going on. He was disappointed how the store looked and everything. And it gave my boss a bad review, and she was mad at all of us. And she said, "I never gotten a bad review ever in my history of being a manager. And if I have to start writing people up and fire people, I will. I never fired anybody, but I have to start writing people up, I will." That scared the crap out of me. I thought, oh shit, I'm going to get getting talked to in the break room, getting called in the office for little things like that. It just drove me insane and stuff, It just said, when you're under a lot of pressure, you don't care about finishing your work because, here's something I've gotten in trouble for multiple times. We've been short in the register because, apparently, I didn't, some people have ripped me off and stuff like that, and you can get fired for that, for being short $10 or something in the register and stuff. They keep track of that shit. And, when they, tell you to, do this or that or so, especially when they call you in on your days off when you have stuff going on, they get upset because they can't find someone to replace the person who called off. They get upset with you and say, "Why didn't you call the store right away?" Or when they call you from their cell phone, they say, "Why didn't you call me instead of call the store?" and stuff. When you already have plans, you're not gonna want to go into work. Your day off is your day off. You shouldn't be being forced to go into work when you don't want to go into work that day. And I'm gonna quote and here's a quote. I'm gonna quote my girlfriend here. This is something I'm gonna quote my girlfriend here. They don't care about you. You're just a number to them, and they're saying that stuff to you and giving you a hard time because they're told that stuff because they need to look good for the district manager or the manager or stuff or whatever manager. In the end,
Tony, I've told you that.
I'm just telling you what she said because because of the job she went through and stuff. Yeah, but more because it's just in the end they won't miss you. You're just a number to them. Yeah.
So in terms of my situation, whether my stuff as a hockey coach or the stuff that I do in the public when it comes to telescope stuff, I don't really have a shitty job, but some days there's shitty aspects to it. Some days I'm dealing with really shitty people in Publix. In fact, I can talk about something that happened this very weekend at Martin Luther King. Normally, I was supposed to coach this squad of 7 or 8 kids. All right? But then I'm told, Anthony, our other team, they're not going to have enough players to play as a team in this tournament. Okay. So instead of my usual group, it's doubled in size. And I have to basically dilute the talent to try to get everybody their ice time, which is not fun. Meanwhile, I'm going up against teams that could just keep their strong players out all the time. I have to put my weak players out. So there's that mess. And then I have the club director telling me, "Hey, we need you to do equal ice time." So as I'm being told, "Hey, can you please make sure the ice time is equal regardless of the skill?" Meanwhile, what the fuck is the point of a tournament if you're not allowed to play your players to win? Imagine you have your stars and then you have your not so stars, and you're told you can't put your stars out as much because you don't want to hurt the non-stars' feelings. You don't want to hurt the parents of the non-stars' feelings. All right. Now, granted, these are young kids. At this age group, there shouldn't be tournaments going on at all with this age group because they don't want to keep score at this age group. It's already pussified as it is, if some might say, when they're saying, oh no, you don't technically keep score in mites, don't worry about that. But then at the same time, we're told they don't keep score at this age group, then they host holiday tournaments, which are mandatory for players to do.
What?
Holiday tournaments.
That's why we're doing a Martin Luther King holiday tournament. And if you're playing on a team like this, you have to do it. If you are under contract to do all that shit. You see how there's an inconsistency there. You're advertising to these young parents and these young players. Oh no, they don't keep score. It's not serious at all. It's just for fun. Don't worry about all that stuff. And then you have to do these tournaments. The first game we get, my goalie just completely shits the bed. Just one of the worst focuses ever. Even worse than usual. Like, usually he's asleep 20% of the time because he's not paying attention, because it's hard to keep a 7-year-old focused because he has this attention span of a chipmunk on NyQuil. And when that happens, and if he's not focused, he lets in a bad shot. He was unfocused for maybe 70% of the time. Like, it was terrible. And we let in lots of goals because of this goalie. So the second game, and at the same time, because I'm trying to get us back in the game, I start putting my superstars out there more, and that angers the parents of the non-superstars. Okay, the next game, we dress a second goalie as a backup, and I basically apply the ice time across the board. It's equal amount of playing time across the board for the players. And granted, it's a close game, but because the goalies were split half and half, one goalie gave up 1 goal, the other goalie gave up 5 goals. And so even though the game was close, yeah, I'm sure we lost by like a goal, I get parents pissed off at providing equal amount of playing time for the goalies. So what the fuck, parents? You get pissed off at me because I didn't apply equalized time the first game, and then I apply equalized time the second game and we lose, and you get pissed off at me because of the goalies.
Sometimes with those parents, like, you just can't please them. Like, they'll
No.
always bitch.
Damned if I did, damned if I didn't. We're put in that situation. So this is just one example of when I have to deal with shitty that just don't fucking get it. Like, they don't understand the situation that coaches are put in. So now, when I can talk about stuff when I do with telescopes, I often will deal with some idiots. Now, were you ever told, guys, that you should never look at the sun with a telescope?
Yep, man.
Yes.
In astronomy class in
so you
college.
were always told that. Now, if we have a special filter on the telescope, you can. Like, it's completely safe as long as the filter is fastened on, which it was. I get this person come up to me, and he notices the telescope is pointing at the sun. And he asks me, well, aren't you going to go blind? And I said, no, it's perfectly safe. So I think, oh, he knows it's pointing at the sun. He knows it's supposed to be the sun. So he looks through the telescope. And this type of filter made the sun look like an orange circle. He looks through the telescope and he says, oh, it's so smooth. And I'm looking at him like, what? Huh? What do you mean by that? I thought this would look a lot rougher. What do you mean by that? And then he asked me, aren't there supposed to be craters?
Damn.
True story. He thought there were supposed to be craters on the sun.
Damn.
And when I looked at him again, it's like, sir, you mean the moon. This is the sun, not the moon. And then he tried to say face. He was like, oh yeah, oh no, I used to know all that. And now I like, he tried to pretend like, oh, he knew, but whatever. But no, I remember it. It's like, no, you legitimately thought there were supposed to be craters on the sun. Like, ugh. And this had to have been a 40-year-old middle-aged guy. It's like, that's fucking sad.
I mean, I heard of some people. I knew this one guy who thought like the moon and the sun were the same thing, and he was like in his mid-30s. I was like, how the fuck do you go this long not knowing that the sun and the moon are two different things?
Are two different things in the sky. You can see them at the same time on certain hours of the day. There's some days when you can look up and you can see the sun somewhere in the sky and see the moon in another part of the sky at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, Oh, good God. And then here's another funny story that I had. This was actually one of my last telescope shifts recently. When I have a big public telescope ready, I will talk to a line that are waiting in line to check out the telescope. And I introduce to them. And they can see the moon is in the sky, and the moon is in the eastern part of the sky. All right? The telescope is pointing to the opposite direction. And I just couldn't help it because I asked the public. I said, all right, folks, thank you for coming in line to check out our telescope. What do you think we're looking at tonight? And somebody says, the moon. And I just went, okay, folks, let's just use our eyes right now. All right? Notice which way the moon is in the sky and notice which way the telescope is pointing. When they realized what I was saying, they started laughing. When they realized, oh, but for those that legitimately thought that the telescope is pointing at the moon when it's not even pointing in the same area, it's like, good God, people, use your fucking eyes. These are things that I want to say to them sometimes, but I can't because if I do that, I'll get fired.
Damn.
So, yeah. One time I had guests come over to the workplace, and if you have a guest come over, they can enjoy some perks. So it came time to close the scope to the public, but my guests got to come in, but people were angry outside, and they're like, well, why do they get to go in? And I said, oh, I'm sorry that when it's closed and they're my guests. And they're like, well, oh, come on, we came all the way from San Francisco. It took us 2 hours to get you from the hotel. I'm like, I'm sorry. So how come they get to go in? Well, they're my guests. So that means they get to go in? Yes, that's exactly what that means. Another time, it's closing time, and she comes down, brings her kids over. Again, this is after closing time, so I have to start putting the telescope away. Comes over to my scope, and I said, sorry, ma'am, we have to close. And she says, oh, but we were at the other one, and they turned us away, and they told us to come try you. And I started feeling bad for her. I was about to let her in line and whatever. But then one of my coworkers says, no. You were up there. You came up there after closing time. She suddenly realized that her lie has been called. And then she starts telling her kids, you see, these men won't let you look through the telescope. It's because of these men that you don't get to see through the telescope. She's clearly trying to make them cry, and her kids are just oblivious to what the fuck is going on. Like, they have no idea why her mom is acting like. If I can think of more off the top of my head, I can list them. But that's sometimes, I love my job. Sometimes I don't love the people when I deal with my job, and you can say that with anybody who works where I work. All right, so thank you so much for joining, guys. Thank you, Mikey. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Rain. All right, for all this, hopefully, now for those of you who are listening, if you would like to be a panelist yourself, just join our Discord server, and then we will hopefully get you on our chat, and hopefully you can join us soon. Links to our Discord server will be in the description. I'm Desert Coyote 22. Thanks for listening.